Howdy folks, I'm Jeff and here's my lovely wife Elbeth, and living about 60 miles from the coast, the Gulf of Mexico, hurricane preparedness should always be foremost in your mind, especially starting June through October here on the Gulf Coast. So I'm going to do a brief instructional video about hurricane preparedness. The first of the series is going to be about water. Water is so important to human life. And the second one will be about food, long-term food storage. And the third one will be about electricity. So let's get ready to go, and we'll go back to my workshop and I'll tell you a little bit about things I've learned after living on the coast or near the coast for 50 years. Thank you. Hey, howdy again, folks. Welcome to my workshop. Today I'm going to talk about hurricane preparedness as related to water. I believe you can only go maybe 3 days without water. We can go a lot longer without food. So in case of a hurricane, what you're dealing with normally are things like flooded roadways, high winds over power lines, electricity being out. So you can't, go in and out. A lot of places to go pick up water. You can't, drinkable water that is. You can't, you won't have electricity to run your water well if you live outside of city limit. Those of you that live in subdivisions, I think a lot of the utility districts are required to have backup generators that run on natural gas or propane. And that's all well and good until things break. And in a case, even in a subdivision where you're used to having water, or like even city water, backup systems go out, roads are flooded, trees are across roads, so technicians may have trouble getting to those places to fix the thing. So in a normal situation where your power goes out, generators kick in a utility district, in a subdivision, you have water, but things happen. So that's why it's important to, when a hurricane is in the Gulf of Mexico, days in advance usually, or in other parts of the world you call them typhoons. They usually just don't appear and then within minutes they're on you like a tornado. Hurricanes, typhoons, you have time to prepare, and that's what this is about. Most of you already know this stuff, but for those that may have lived in the northern states, haven't had to deal with long power outages. I know you have blizzards and other things there, but here along the Gulf Coast, we have to deal with hurricanes. About once every 2 to 3 years, a big one will come through. And one that I recall, Hurricane Ike, we were without power for 2 weeks. So you have to be prepared. And one of these acts of preparedness is having water. Okay, I'll get to the point. Here are some things to keep in mind. Like I said, most of these things are obvious, but there may be a few that you had not thought of. Okay, number one, the basics. Everybody's seen the bottled water, okay? It'd be good to have a couple of cases of these on hand. And they do have expiration dates. I don't know, in this case, how important it is about, I don't know when water spoils, if it's been sealed all correctly, but best case scenario, you'll have about 2 cases of this. There are formulas online that say about how much water a person needs per day. I'm not going to bore you with all those details, but there are charts that tell you about how much water someone consumes a day. So it's important to have these. Also, after a hurricane, especially if you live in a rural area, you're going to be out, you're going to be working hard. There's no electricity, so that means there's not going to be air conditioning. So you also need to have some Gatorades or Powerades to replace the electrolytes, because you're going to be sweating really bad, at least here in the South, and you're going to need something to replace those electrolytes. So a lot of people are scrambling to get to all the cases of water, and that's all good, but don't forget to get some of these also, because you're going to have to replace those, because your body's going to be sweating a lot, getting rid of fluids, getting rid of salt. You're going to have to be able to replace that. Okay, so they also sell it in gallon jugs. You'll see gallon jugs also of water. Be sure to have plenty of those on hand. And then when you empty them, don't throw them away because you can still use them. For example, if you keep throughout the year, keep some old bottles, plastic bottles, milk jugs. This is Sunny D, an type of orange drink. You can take the label off of that, and then you got another water jug here. Be sure and wash it out though, good. Wash it out good. This one actually still smells a little bit orange, but we just emptied it yesterday, so it's not going to be that contaminated and all. We've rinsed it out numerous times, but you still get the smell. So rinse it out good, hot water, soap water, and you can use tap water. Before the hurricane arrives, use tap water. Fill these jugs up. Then you have got good drinking water. A lot of people think you can only drink bottled water. That's not true. I mean, how do you think people lived, centuries ago, decades ago? It doesn't have to be bottled drinking water. You can have filtered. There's all kinds of filters on the market, filtered water, and even in subdivisions, a lot of times they have chlorine, and chlorine is great at decontaminating. It doesn't taste great, but generally speaking, it's not going to kill you. So don't panic because you can't get the drinking bottles. You can survive after a hurricane drinking tap water. All right? Okay, with that in mind, one of my favorite things is this. This right here, this brand name is called Aquatainer. It is great, and I'll tell you why. You can fill it up with tap water, before hurricane hits. This particular one is 7 gallons. I've only put a couple of gallons in it right now because 7 gallons is very heavy. But the great thing about this is this part right here. Let me get it lifted up higher where you can see it on camera. It's quite heavy. So, all right. So this neat thing on this, you can unscrew this part right here. All right, and then look at that. You unscrew this, and you flip it around. Put it on this side. Screw it in. And it's very handy. You have 7 gallons of drinking water. Screw this on good. And what I like to do is put this there by the kitchen sink, because like I said, when the electricity goes off, and you're eventually going to lose pressure in your water tank for your house, water pressure, and you're going to need some drinking water, stuff to wash dishes, stuff to prepare meals with, and all that. Okay, then you've got a spigot here, right there. Get it up close so you can see. And what you can do, you put it by your sink, like this. You gotta get it tight so it don't leak, right? Okay, and at 90 degrees, it's off. Okay, and then we turn it out straight. Look at there, you got good water right there. So you've got good drinking water, and it's got an on and off valve. So it's really the next best thing to having tap water is having your tap water in this. And if you use it sparingly, I mean, you can go quite a few days with that. Okay? All right. The other thing is when I finish using my bleach, I will sometimes throughout the year I'll add water to a bleach bottle. It has a little bit of chlorine residue in it, a little bleach residue, and you can this will be a good, at least for washing dishes and stuff. It's going to have a little bit of chlorine in there, so it's not going to turn into full of algae and stuff throughout the year. So anyhow, it's good to bleach bottles are good for storing water too. A few other things you may not think about. If you will get several gallon jugs or 2 liter, 1 liter jugs, depending what the measurements are where you live, and you have a freezer, you can fill these up, to about this level, and then put them in the bottom of your freezer. And you say, well, what good does that do? It's frozen, I can't drink it. True, but it serves 2 purposes. Number one, it's going to eventually thaw out, and you have drinking water. The other thing is, When the power goes out, you've got basically big blocks of ice in your freezer that are going to help keep your food and your groceries cool. It may not keep it freezing, but it's going to keep it cool in the interim. So it serves two purposes. You keep your food cold throughout power outages, and you can actually drink the water later. That'll be another video. I'll be talking about electricity and cooking and all that kind of stuff in the next two videos. All right. Okay. Something else you may not think of. Igloos. Okay. Yes, I know you need to use them to ice down food, say if you have to eventually evacuate or whatever, which I'm doing my best not to have to evacuate again after trying to leave during Hurricane Rita. It was a madhouse. So you may not think about it, but igloos are great for storing water. Just make sure the plug is closed on that end. Make sure the plug is drain plug. Open it up. You've got a huge amount of water you can put in here, okay? Now look at this. Here's the old sticker that's still on here. 48 quarts. 48 quarts of water in this. That's a huge amount of water. And I don't know that I would drink right out of the igloo. I don't think it would kill you if you washed it good with soap and water before the hurricane. But you can dip water in there and you could boil it with, for cooking and taking a bucket shower or whatever. That's another thing you can do. Of course, other ways, other things to think about for water sources after hurricane is have some bleach, Clorox bleach, and even on their website, it looks like this. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's got on their website, and we'll post the link on there. It says disaster preparedness and purifying water, and it's on the Clorox website. And things to remember is for 1 quart of water, 2 drops of bleach can decontaminate a quart of water. 8 drops for a whole gallon. Now there are some stipulations on that. The water needs to not have little floaties, particles floating in it. It doesn't need to have any of the loose particles floating around. You want to get water that's as close to potable as possible, and strain it, filter it, or let it at least the sediments go to the bottom before you add these the chlorine to it. And let's see. For those of you outside of the U.S., 1 U.S. quart is equal to 0.946 liters. So if you use the table for decontaminating this water, you can basically use the same chart for 1 quart as 1 liter, and you should be fine. Another option is there's purification tablets that they sell at various outdoor stores or in the camping section of Walmart even. I think they're iodide tablets. The thing to keep in mind on that is it takes some time for that chemical reaction to do its thing. Another source of water is your bathtub. Say for example you have a house with 2 bathtubs. Well, before a hurricane, designate one as water storage, and they have rubber stoppers you can put at the drain. I don't really trust those, so you can get some plastic sheeting, visqueen, cut it out a big rectangle, put it in there, let that be your liner, then fill that up with water, and that plastic will keep it from draining. A lot of drains, when they're closed, they still let water seep out, and over a course of 2 days, your tub will be empty. So that's why I recommend lining that with some plastic. And it's all good to prepare ahead. And from June to October is hurricane season in the Texas Gulf Coast. So you've got all year to plan around it. So don't wait and scurry around. Everybody else is trying to get some of these things, right before hurricane season or right before a hurricane hits. And that's not the time to do it. Always be, thinking ahead if you can. I think that's most of my notes here. Let's see. Let's see. 50 of those tablets will purify 25 to 50 quarts, depending on the source quality. However, it can take 35 minutes or much longer to work, and that's for those tablets I was telling you about. Okay, now here's a little bit out of the box thinking next. Okay, say for example you've got the ditches are full of water, and you need water to flush your commode. Okay, instead of using your good water, good quality water, your drinking water, just to flush a commode, you can go to the ditch. You can get some water. Try not to get it with all the leaves and sticks, and then I'll go through kind of some steps you can do to actually flush your commode without using normal water pressure. Okay, thanks. Okay, I hope you can see this, but in this scenario, I'm going to pretend that I got this bucket with ditch water, okay? And so I'm going to strain it and put it into here before I put it in to help me flush the commode, okay? So what I've done, I have found an old window screen around here. That's right here, this part. And then this is something that the builders left. I think it goes, I think the stonemasons use that to put some of the mortar around. So I found that, and I'm going to use these as my primary and secondary screening materials to filter any contaminants, okay? And for example, I'm going to put a piece of plastic in here, and this piece of plastic is going to mimic, say, a leaf or a stick or something, okay? I want to put it in here in the water, and let's see if this works, okay? So I just want to strain it, get the contaminants, the big things that would mess up the plumbing. I'm going to strain those out of here before I put those in the tank on my commode, as you'll see. Okay, so we've done that, and it worked. It's kept this from getting in the water that I'm going to be using. All right, I'll go through kind of some steps you can do to actually flush your commode without using normal water pressure. Okay, thanks. Okay, so to simulate a situation after a hurricane, I'm going to shut the water off here at this valve to simulate a situation where you use the commode and flush it, and then the water does not come back in the tank. So the water's gone out, it's drained here, and it has not refilled here, so it's not refilling the tank. Now I'm going to use the water that we filtered and pour right directly into the tank and bring it up to the level that it was before. We've refilled the water, now let's try flushing. So you see, we have flushed the commode without any water source coming from here. Strictly from the water that we hypothetically got from the ditch, we have been able to flush our commode. Success. Okay, we're behind my house now. Thinking a little bit outside the box, and you have plenty of time to prepare. What I have here is a rain barrel, and typically people, if they get a rain barrel, they'll get it and set it up where it's not sits on the ground. In this case, if you had to, I've got it elevated, and you could take a shower with it if you needed to. Recommend if you get a barrel. This one I got on Amazon. I think this particular one is discontinued, but you want something that's going to block UV light so that algae and all doesn't grow in the inside of this thing. So this is a little extreme, not for everyone, but you can collect rainwater, and it fills up, and you've got a lot of water. In this case, it's 45 gallons of water that's free, that you don't have to pay for or filter or anything like that. And it's good enough to, you could boil it and of course and drink it. You cook it, and obviously definitely could use the water to take a shower, bucket shower, or whatever. So there's a few features on this that I added that I'll walk through briefly with you. And again, it's a little bit extreme case, but it is water, and water is invaluable. All right, so let's take a look at some of the details. So the gutter system is here, and it goes down into the top there, and the top is a rubber round. Actually, it's a thick rubber round feeding trough that I modified so that when the water fills up from the bottom all the way to the top, it will overflow and divert into this gutter that you see here that comes all the way down to the ground right there. Okay, so I made that diverter so it will still stay sealed and not just, you know, run over the top. And then at the bottom of it, I got this manifold. There's several different types that you can get, and one of them I have it to where hooked up with some valving and pipe and then a really cheap shower head. So that's it, and then it's on this metal grating, and then in a 6-foot stand with a treated lumber. And it basically just works like you open the valve here, and presto, you've got water, and it's quite clear. It's just rainwater. So it's nice to have if you've got after a hot summer day with no electricity and running water. There you go. I'm back in the shop now. It's something else to keep in mind. If you have a water well, you're going to have a pressure tank. So even if you don't have power, you're still going to have water in that tank. So in this particular case, I want to show you a valve at the bottom that water can come out of if you need it. In this case, it's actually pressured up, but if you look around here to the bottom, you'll see a valve right there. And this valve here, if you turn it, water will come out. See there? I'm not going to turn it on, it's going to make a mess, but that is a valve here. And in this case, I actually have a hose bib outside here also, but you can get water out of that. And now, if you can't break a seal at the top, which I can't even on this one, it may be somewhat slow to come out, but the water is in there. You can hear it from the echo. So this concludes this video, informational video, if you want to call it. I hope it's been helpful. I know that in no way have I covered all of the ways to create, potable or drinking water, but at least it hopefully got your mind to thinking about what you can do, what resources that you could start putting together now to prepare for the next hurricane and have plenty of water to drink. That's all for now. Take care. Be prepared.